Here's a little known secret about me. I have an Italian passport, so it's no surprise that I really liked the Fiat 500e, and I really like this. It's the Abarth 500e, the sportier, more brash, more audacious take on the electric Fiat 500. And in this review, I'm going to tell you why it makes even less sense than the other version of this car, and why I want it even more. Stay tuned, you're going to love this car. Trust me. All right, if you've already subscribed, thanks a lot. Let's go. If you've watched my Fiat 500e review, you'll know that I thought that it was expensive at $52,500, but this one, the Abarth 500e, is ridiculous. It's silly money, almost $60,000 before on-road costs. So it's certainly not the sort of car that you're going to buy on a whim. You have to actually really want this car to buy it. But hey, Abarth has a history of offering ambitiously priced, very small cars with lots of compromises. Just have a look at some of this footage from the Maserati edition, or Edizione Maserati, that I did about 10 or 11, maybe 12 years ago, and you'll see that, hey, pricing back then, $60,000 for that model, which is about 400 grand in today's money, shows that Abarth does have history of offering, well, yeah, very expensive, very small cars. I'll put a link in the description below so you can check out my full review of the Maserati edition version of the existing petrol Abarth. Yes, you can leave mean comments if you want to on this channel instead. Hey, but look, this car does have a bunch of really great features that set it apart from the Fiat 500e. It gets these amazing big alloy wheels, 18-inch diamond cut alloy wheels they are, in fact. You also get LED infinity headlights, plus LED daytime running lights and rear lights. And inside there's premium sporty seats with Alcantara embossing, and those front seats are also heated. Plus there's a leather and Alcantara sporty steering wheel, and the touchscreen media system has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and there's a JBL 6-speaker sound system fitted to the Abarth model, which you can barely hear over the sound generator that's fitted to this car, which basically mimics what it would sound like if it had an exhaust pipe, because it doesn't. And here's a clip of that right now. And look, that divides opinion, and that's fine. And also what divides opinion for me is choosing an Abarth in black. This Venom black paint is about $1,000, and it's certainly not the color I would choose if I was picking a little sporty car like this. But hey, let me tell you about some other cars that you might want to consider if you're looking at the Abarth 500e. If you need a really small electric car and you want it to be, well, a little bit sporty at least, there are some great options for you out there. Firstly, I would recommend you check out the MG4. It's rear-wheel drive, and the entry-level version is actually a lot of fun. Even though it's so cheap, and it feels a little bit cheap on the inside, it stacks up really well. If you are looking for a driver's car that has a reasonable amount of range, it could be a really good choice for you. And also, if you want one that's really fast, there's the MG4 X-Power, which I've also done a review of, and it does 0 to 100 in less than 4 seconds. So it is stupidly quick. It's also about the same money as this, so it doesn't necessarily break the bank compared to this car, and it's got 5-door practicality too. Another electric hatchback you should definitely check out is the Cupra Born. At around $60,000, it has more than 500 kilometers of WLTP rated driving range, and it's also good fun to drive too. It's a 5-door, so it's got extra practicality on its side. It looks smart on the inside, and I reckon it's absolutely stunning on the outside. And hey, you might think I'm crazy, but I'm going to throw in the Hyundai Ioniq 5N in the mix here for the best alternatives to this car, because if you are looking for a very sporty electric car, the Ioniq 5N is the sportiest and most fun and the most ridiculous car that I think I've ever driven that's fully electric. So it's also $111,000, so it's definitely the same sort of price that you'd pay if you were buying 2 Abarth 500Es. So it might not make sense for you and your budget, but it might make sense for you if you're looking for the sportiest electric fun car that you can buy. Although this stacks up for me personally. It is, after all, a Fiat 500, so it is tiny. It's about 3.6 meters nose to tail, which makes it one of the smallest cars that you can buy in Australia or anywhere really. And those new Abarth wheels really fill those arches nicely. Look, I could take or leave the Abarth badging and lettering all over this car. There are probably about a dozen or more different badges and stuff on it, but hey, obviously it needs to make a statement in traffic. So let's check out the boot space and see if it's big enough. You've got 185 litres of cargo capacity in the boot, and that stylish little bag there is actually your charge cable bag. So you can see for yourself that it's not necessarily the most practical car in terms of boot capacity, but there is enough space for a couple to go away for a weekend, or you can fit a small pram in there pretty comfortably. There is no spare wheel in there, so that's not ideal. There are no shopping bag hooks either, so you do get a light, which is something, but it's not certainly the most practical car on the market, but hey, it's not trying to be either, is it? The interior of the Abarth 500e does have some points of difference compared to the regular Fiat 500e, and things that I really like about this interior include these seats. They are beautiful, they look fantastic, they're grippy and comfortable, and I love the Scorpion logo on the top of the seat here. I know it's a little bit audacious, but I think that this does stack up nicely. In terms of the seat comfort, I mean, the seating position, not terrific if you're after something that's really sporty, because you do sit up very high. You sort of feel like you're sitting on a stool looking out around you rather than actually in a racing style seat. And the seats are manually adjustable. Now, I like that because it means that you can get your ideal position, and it does mean that, well, they're pretty quick to adjust if you are swapping between drivers, someone who's shorter and someone who's taller, but yeah, it's not necessarily living up to the whole price tag thing. So you've got heated front seats as well. And also you've got reach and rake adjustment for the steering, which is good because it means you can set yourself up into a better position, even though you are sort of sitting up a bit higher. I love the Alcantara and leather steering wheel and the straight ahead marker, which I think is a nice little touch. So I reckon that it does have an extra bit of wow factor to the cabin in the Abarth model, and you still get all the good stuff that you get in the regular Fiat 500e, including this touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, sat-nav in the Abarth model as well, a digital instrument cluster as well, which is pretty easy to get your head around. It takes a little bit of learning. You've got steering wheel controls and buttons on the back of the steering wheel for some adjustments as well. Stalks where they should be as well, although they're back to front. So if you're one of those people who insists on having the blinker on the right, you're going to hate this car. And if you're one of those people who insists on having a gear selector that's actually a gear stick, you'll have to get used to this. It's a push button gear selection system in this car. You've also got buttons here for your climate control system, and there's also a little storage tray here for your phone, which is a wireless charger as well, and a USB-A port. And down here you do have a bit of extra storage, a couple more USB ports and a 12-volt cup holders, and there's a little flip-out cup holder section down here as well, which you probably put a bottle in instead. There's bottle holders in the doors too, and you also get this fixed glass roof with this very thin mesh cover on it, and on really hot days it's a very dark car and it does feel the heat in the cabin. Let me tell you, I don't love that. In fact, it's one of the things that might actually turn me off wanting this car, although I do still want it. All right, I guess you want me to show you what the back seat space is like. Okay, so I'm just going to slide the seat back to where I might be able to sit in front. Maybe not comfortably, but this is not the most enjoyable position for someone my size. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall, and this seat, as I said, is about where I might want to sit, but maybe a little bit further back, in fact. So I couldn't comfortably fit behind my own driving position. So keep that in mind. If you're looking at this and you've got taller children, or you actually take adults with you places, it's not going to be ideal, but you probably knew that already, right? There are 4 seats. There are also ISOFIX points and top tethers for the rear seats if you want to put a child in the back here. Keep in mind though, you don't have any directional air vents, although it is a small cabin, so the air does flow around pretty well. And there's not much in the way of amenities. You've got map pockets on both seat backs, but there's no charge ports, no bottle holders, no cup holders. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty basic backseat experience. Someone my height, it's not very comfortable, and I don't think it's designed to be comfortable for people in the back. I think it's designed to be fun for those up front. Just like the Fiat 500e, you've got an electric motor at the front axle, which means it's front wheel drive, and there's a single speed transmission as well. Unlike the Fiat 500e, it has lots more power. So there's about 30% more power and a bit more torque as well compared to the entry-level Fiat version of this car. So that's the reason you buy it, as well as that exhaust note. And if you don't like that exhaust note, you probably don't understand what Abarth is all about. And also I'll just add that I think it's still a miss that there is no frunk section where you could store your cables or something like that. Storage is at a premium in this car, so it is surprising they didn't add a frunk under the bonnet. Right, so your charge port is here over the back driver's side wheel, so it should be pretty easy to get access to. But the battery pack, it's still the same 42 kilowatt hour battery pack that you get in the Fiat 500e, but in the Abarth, it has significantly less WLTP rated range. You'll see the number on your screen now. It's almost 60 k's less than the Fiat 500e, and it doesn't necessarily have the most range available either. So that might factor into your considerations, or you might just use this as a city car and it might be perfectly fine. Now, you've got a Type 2 combination plug for your charging. The AC maximum charge rate is 11 kilowatts, which is faster than most other cars out there, but you will need 3-phase power at home in order to take advantage of its relatively speedy full charge time of 4.25 hours, according to Abarth. Now, there's also DC charging, as you would expect, and that should mean that you'll be able to do 0 to 80% at a public charger in about 35 minutes, if you can find one that works and, well, you've got time to spare. So, what do you reckon? It's actually not that bad, I don't think, in terms of the charging stuff. All right, people, listen to this. Almost Abarth-like, almost. Now that noise is something you will either love or hate. Like I said, I don't think you understand Abarth if you hate it, but I can understand why you would, because it's a bit weird. Listen to that. Almost sounds like turbo whine as well. So it's obvious to me that Abarth's engineers and fun factor people have decided that yes, this car needs to be more fun than a standard 500e for a number of different reasons. It needs to be more Abarth-like, more noisy, more annoying to some people, I would say. And that's fine, because that's what this car should be about. And while, you know, some people might say that having fake noise in an EV is laughable or silly or just plain stupid, I don't agree. I think that having character in a car like this is important. Like, I already thought that the 500e had plenty of character just because of what it is. It's a very small electric car with not necessarily the best levels of refinement, and the same can be said here. This is not the most refined car, and you might actually get sick of that exhaust noise as you're going faster and faster, because it does eat into the cabin quite a bit. But I guess you can turn it off if you want to. I'm not going to for this review because I don't think that's the point. Now, as I mentioned, there are different drive modes. I'm in Scorpion Track at the moment, which is the most aggressive drive mode, and it means that it has the most responsiveness to the steering and also the motor as well. So it does make a bit of a difference. I'm just going to put it back to street, and it dulls things just a little bit. So I don't think that's necessarily a massive step between the drive modes, unless you go down to the most sedate one, which is Turismo, and that'll be your range saving mode. If you're into trying to save a bit of range, then that's the one you'd choose. All of them though still have the same sort of soundtrack if you leave it on, and that's why I've left it on, because I think it's pretty cool that it's available in all drive modes. Just give it a little bit of a boot here. A little bit more. Oh my goodness. It brings out your inner silly person, this car. Look, I love Abarths for that reason. Every time I've driven a petrol Abarth, I've found myself driving very enthusiastically. And that's the sort of thing that this car eggs you on to do as well. It's also, you know, the sort of car that makes you have fun like every commute is going to be enjoyable in this car, unless you're on really terrible roads, because it's got a very short wheelbase and big wheels, and it doesn't necessarily deal with bumps very well, but I think you've got to expect that for a car like this. It does have sporty suspension though, so through corners, it does actually behave itself pretty well. Although, like I said, the short wheelbase does have an effect. It sort of pitches you back and forth a little bit more than might be comfortable. But I reckon this is a hoot of a car. It's also got really nice steering. It has a nice amount of weight to it, and also a decent little bit of feel through the wheel as well. This is the thing. This car is gonna make the mundane feel like fun. And I think that's why it exists. And I bloody applaud Abarth for having something like this in the electric era, because it would have been so easy for Abarth to just go, nah, we were a petrol branded exercise, and nah, we're not gonna do EVs, but thank goodness they did. This is great fun. I will say though that the extra power and torque that you get in the Abarth model does overwhelm the front axle a little bit at times. You can find that it will really scrabble to get traction when you do put your foot down hard. And it's also going to do that in corners. It doesn't have any sort of tricky diff or limited slip differential or apportioning torque differential even. So it doesn't necessarily have the best manners when it comes to driving in corners with pace. But honestly, I'm not really sure that matters, because really it just means that it's more involving to drive, and you have to be thinking a little bit more about the way you are driving it too. And yes, it does have a regenerative braking system, as you would expect. So in Turismo mode, it will come to a complete stop, which is pretty cool. So we've just come to a complete stop here and didn't touch the brake pedal at all for that. So that means that it is going to be able to use those regen brakes to its best effect in different situations, and you will hopefully be able to push back a little bit of energy to increase your efficiency levels, because hey, we need to talk about efficiency with this car. Rightio, on your screen you will see the official energy consumption figure, the WLTP rated figure for the Abarth 500e. And that is quite high for a little single motor EV that weighs a lot less than some other EVs out there. That's because it has been tuned to have extra power and torque, and on your screen you'll see what I've seen when it comes to the efficiency figures displayed on the screen in front of me. It's not necessarily the right efficiency car for you, but it might be the right fun car for you. The Fiat 500e that this car is based on achieved a 4-star ANCAP safety rating from 2021, so not the highest rating, and the Abarth version doesn't come with a score, so I'm sure that doesn't actually matter to you if you've watched this far in this review. But it does have a bunch of great technology and safety equipment, including autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, plus there's a lane keeping feature, and you've got blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, front and rear parking sensors, and also a reversing camera as well. And if you're worried about airbag coverage, there are 6 fitted to this car, dual front, front side, and also curtain coverage for the front and second row seats. I've already made it pretty clear in this video that this is not the most pragmatic new car purchase that you could make, and the warranty cover sort of backs that up. It's got a 3-year, 150,000 kilometer warranty, which is way below what you would expect for a new car in 2024 and beyond. But there is at least an 8-year, 160,000 kilometer warranty for the battery pack of this electric car. Now you also get 3 years of roadside assist included, so that's good to know in case you're worried about running out of juice along the road somewhere. And you get a cap price servicing plan too. You'll see the prices on your screen now, and it does have pretty decent service intervals as well if you're worried about having to go back and forth to your dealership. So not the smartest choice, but still, I think it's okay. Some cars just charm you, and the Abarth 500e is one of those. It has so much character, so much charisma, so much personality for an electric car that it really does stand out from the rest. And hey, it might not be the most sound decision that you'll ever make, but hey, no one who's ever bought an Abarth is actually in their right state of mind, in my opinion. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you buy it, or would you choose one of those other options I mentioned? I'd love to know. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit like and share this video with your friends. It helps a lot. I'll see you in the next one.